So I would like to extend a warm welcome to Alex Rodriguez, who is joining me on the Golden Nuggets for Leaders. Alex is someone who has quite a bit of experience with leadership in many different ways. So he has a company called Conduit, and I'll let him introduce his company. But he's also sitting on a number of different boards and councils related mostly to the environment. That's at least my understanding. So, Alex, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your business and all these other activities.
Thank you, Ilona, for inviting me to be on your podcast. My name is Alex Rodriguez, as you mentioned. I am the CEO of Conduit Government Relations. We are a boutique government relations and public affairs firm. I am the CEO. My partner, Scott Carter, is the president of the firm. He is in Maine and I am in California. I met Scott many years ago when he worked at the U.S. Department of Commerce, and we started the company when he retired from the USDA in 2022. Uh, as you mentioned, also, I'm on numerous boards. I am currently on the US EPA's National Drinking Water Advisory Council. I was appointed by the Biden administration to serve in that capacity. I am also an appointee by Governor Gavin Newsom to the Region 3 Water Quality Control Board. The state of California is broken up into 9 regions when it comes to these boards. Our region is covers land from Ventura County, northern Ventura County, all the way up to Santa Cruz County. And we are the largest regional water board by land mass. We also report to the State Water Resources Control Board. They are the body that oversees us. And I am also on the board of directors of the La Cumbre Mutual Water Company, which is a privately held mutual water company that services my neighborhood, my area where I live in Santa Barbara. And I'm currently president of the board of directors.
Fabulous. So I read on your LinkedIn profile where we connected. That's how
Yes.
we came in contact. So I read on your profile that you have about 30 years of experience in leadership and advocacy. Um, what's your leadership philosophy?
My leadership philosophy is quiet leadership, lead by example. Um, it's easy for a leader to come in and be the bull in the china shop, and I hate the word disruptors. Disrupt. For whatever reason, that word just hits me wrong. But my leadership style is I lead by consensus. One of the things that you may not know about me is I'm a lifelong martial artist. I've been doing martial arts since I was 8 years old, and I'll be 61 this month. So doing the math, that's 53 years. I have learned so much in leadership by doing martial arts. And that is part of my style of leadership. It's, again, a very quiet leadership, almost Zen-like in my approach. And, I see myself as someone that works towards consensus. It's easy to be, the one person that we need to do it this way. If we don't do it this way, it's not going to work. That's that is not the way that I lead. I talk to everybody, and I gather information, and I gather their point of view, and I try to put myself in their point of view. Leading by empathy, I guess, is another way to put that.
That is totally aligned with what I am doing actually, because I am really focused on emotional intelligence and empathy
Mhm.
and helping leaders figure out how others see the world, right? To look at the world
Yes,
through their eyes. And that
yes.
seems to be well aligned with how you're approaching leadership. That's fascinating. But I did not know about the martial arts. Is it a lot about um, self-control and being able to soothe yourself? Because for sure, over the course of the past 30 years, there must have been upsetting situations, right?
Oh,
So,
oh
so
yeah,
what do
many,
you do?
many. Well,
What do you
so
do in those
so
cases?
in what I do in those cases, I try to reflect. What's my role in it? Am I the person, or what's my involvement? How did this come to be, and what part did I play in it, if any? And usually there is a part that I played in it, right? Whether it's miscommunication, assumptions that I shouldn't have made, whatever. And there's nothing wrong with saying, "Hey, I made a mistake. Let me try to fix that." I'm a big believer in failure. Failure is good. It gives us those learning experiences that we need. And we do our children a disservice by being upset with them when they come home with a bad report card. You're smarter than that, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, okay. My philosophy is, let's take this and learn from it. Where can we fix this? Now, it's one thing to make a mistake and correct it. It's another thing to make that mistake over and over and over and over again. And again, I have no problem looking, whether it's a client, a vendor, a friend, a coworker, in the eye and saying, look, that's on me. I made a mistake. I miscalculated. Let's pivot. Let's figure out how to fix that. And in the martial arts that I practice, or the place that I train at, we have tenets, these 5 tenets that we recite after every class. And to me, I see them more as affirmations: self-control, courtesy, integrity, indomitable spirit. And there's a fifth one, and now I can't remember, and I say it every time I train. But I try to take those into every aspect of my life: work, business, my volunteer work, and that to me, that to me has helped me build my leadership skills, my leadership philosophy, and the way that I just live my life. And again, a lot of it is quiet reflection at the end of the day. What did I do better? What could I do better? What did I do good that made me feel good? Right? How did I help somebody else? How did I get out of myself? Um, a real quick story. I read this in a book many, many years ago, and I forget the name of the book, but it's something that I do whenever I get into some sort of a business funk, especially. I'll go to the bank, get a $20 bill and ask for $1 bills. And I'll just walk up and down State Street in Santa Barbara. And anybody that's panhandling, I'll stop and I'll give them $1 and I say, I'm gonna give you $1, but you need to tell me your story. How did you get here? Oh, I'm a runaway. I was abused by my parents and I ran away. I get a lot of that. Or, I have a drinking problem. I served in the military, went to Iraq and Afghanistan, and there was nothing, no help for me afterwards. So I'm on the street now. The most interesting story that I heard, a young man in front of a CVS drugstore was asking for money. He needed a prescription filled. And I said, well, here's $1. Tell me your story. So he was a Katrina survivor, or he was displaced after Hurricane Katrina, came to California, wound up in Santa Barbara, and had to have emergency intestinal surgery. And he lifted up his shirt, showed me his scar. And I said, how much do you need for your prescription? Because it's antibiotics, it's $38. I said, come on. I went in there and I bought it for him. $38 to do a nice thing for somebody that needed it. It's not like, oh, I just want to buy a six pack. And it's lessons like that that kind of help me. And that I know that that's not leadership, but that kind of feeds my leadership style, if that makes sense.
I believe that is leadership, Alex. That is leading informally, of course,
Yes.
but that is leading within society, right? And you are so right about saying that one of the best ways to get out of funk is to go out there and do some good. And
Yes.
that's been supported by studies as well. That's the way to get out of depression is actually to
Yeah,
go and volunteer
exactly.
and do something good in the world. So, like in my opinion, leadership is frequent. Definition of leadership is frequently kind of limited to uh, people. Well, actual equivalent of manager, right, in the mind of
Hmm.
many people. But it's not really that because there are managerial skills and there are leadership skills, right? And
Exactly.
of course, the managerial skills are important to run a team, but it really takes the leadership skills, the ability to inspire, to motivate, to listen
Hmm.
to people truly, right? So that they feel heard, because that's what creates loyalty and engagement.
Absolutely. And what's that old saying, right? God gave you one mouth and two ears so that you listen more than you talk. And that's another quality that I try to embrace. I'm not always successful. I love to talk. I'm just one of those people that once I get to know you, my wife reminds me, geez, you talk a lot sometimes. But in a business situation, a leadership situation, I will listen and I will, if I can say something in two sentences that I normally would say in three paragraphs, I'll go with the two sentences because it has a bigger impact, right? You're not listening to everything that I'm saying. You'll pick little words here and there versus if I just, this is how we do it, boom, 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 that has a greater impact on people, I think. I know it does with me when I hear somebody give me direction or what have you. And I know a lot of leaders do the do as I say, not as I do approach. That's not me. If I say let's do it this way, I'm going to be the first one out there doing it that way. I will be the point person. It's like I tell some of the people that work for me, don't be afraid to tell people to call me. If there's an issue, a problem, tell them to call me. I will deal with it. I will protect you as much as I can, right? Unless you're obviously doing something wrong. But if you have an upset customer or whatever, give them my number. I will talk to them. And if I can take care of it, I will. And if I can't, I'm sorry, I tried.
Hmm. Yes, well, the listening is so important. And we are talking about active listening and actually soliciting feedback from people and soliciting opinions, right? Because
Hmm.
in many companies, there is hierarchy, right? Like few
Yes.
companies have very flat structure, and people hold back unless you actually train them to speak up, right? Do you
Yes.
do you do that, Alex?
I don't hold back. It's like I tell my clients, maybe not right away, but at some point within my client relationship, I tell them, look, I do not care about my contract. And I don't mean that in a way that, I'm just going to do whatever. No, I don't care about coming to you and telling you the truth. That's what you hire me for. The work that I do can be very sensitive, right? And uh, issues are needing to be addressed, or what have you. Legislation looked at, meetings need to take place. But I will come if there is a problem. I will come to you as my client and tell you we have a problem, and this is it. Nine times out of 10, I will come to you with a solution. Whether that solution works or not, different story. But at least I'm going to think it through. And that I got from my mom. My mom used to tell me, hey, you can come to me with the problem, but I expect you to come with a solution every time. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I can veto your solution, whatever. But that's the same attitude that I have with my clients that, hey, if this isn't working for whatever reason, get rid of me. Find somebody else. but I will always be honest with you. I will never try to hide anything, but I will try to come to you with a solution as well. And I know that some people are afraid to speak up, and I used to be like that myself. When I first started my company, I was afraid to tell people, clients things, because I started my first company in 1995, before Scott and I joined forces to do Conduit. I had DCG Public Affairs, and I used to take any work that I could get. Now it's like I turn away more than I take for that reason. It's like I no, I want to be upfront with you. You're expecting me to do certain things that I don't think are ethical or whatever, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. And I've had that conversation more than once with clients. It's like, look, this isn't working. Your team is doing this, and that's really in a gray area. We either need to adjust it or I can walk away right now. I have no problem with that. It hurts
Uh-huh.
every time that I've had to let go of a client, but
Yes, I totally appreciate that. And it is about living in your integrity, right?
Mhm.
Because you cannot hang your soul at the door and just do whatever the client wants you to do, especially
Exactly.
in your line of business. I mean, in any business really, but you are working with people as part of Conduit. You are helping them communicate with the governments and navigate the legislations and so forth, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And it can be, and it can be very sensitive. You make the wrong comment publicly, or the client makes a comment that's different from what we're telling an agency. And now you go into whether it's crisis communication mode or trying to fix the issue, and nobody likes to do that. Nobody likes to do that, and you know, the more straightforward I am, and that goes to whomever I'm representing my client to as well. You know, I try to be as straightforward with them as possible.
Absolutely, because you've got only one reputation, right? And
Exactly.
if you do something underhanded, well, first of all, it's going to sit on your conscience.
Yep.
And second, you damage your reputation, and it takes much more to rebuild it than to have it in the first place. So I think our integrity is one of the biggest currencies really that we have in business. That's my take on it.
It really is. It really is. And I've had, issues before. I've been fired from contracts, and I get that, right? Different direction, but it's never been they question my integrity. It's never been that they question my truthfulness. It's just been, you know what, we need to pivot and go in this direction, or we found somebody that can help us where, you've been not been successful. And I get that. Hey, I'm the first one to say, do it. Please, don't keep me on board because you like me. Right? Nobody wins for that. Nobody wins for that.
Right, and that's interesting that you say that. It definitely applies in terms of contracts and business, but it also applies to individual employees because sometimes people stick with a role that is not a good fit for them. And their manager doesn't want to let them go because they don't want to hurt their feelings. But
Hmm.
essentially, they are enabling the person to stay in the mud, right? Do you have any insights about this aspect?
Well, part of that's the manager's fault, right? And the manager supervisor needs to see this. They need to be able to look at this and say, wait a second, your employee A over here is not performing. But yet I see that, you guys golf every weekend together, or I see that you and your wife have dinner with him and his wife once a month, whatever, right? Whatever that relationship is. And, it seems like if it's more of a personal relationship. And That's not fair to the company. That's not fair to whomever owns the company, whether it's a privately or a publicly traded company, a privately held company with as shareholders, or if it's a government agency, that's not fair to taxpayers. Um, and it's not fair. It's not fair to the employee that he or she is not happy. They're not producing, right? Someone needs to have a very difficult conversation with them. I'm glad I'm not that person that have that conversation with them, right? Because I get that, right? The empathy, I want my people to succeed because their success is my success. And if they're not succeeding, then we either need to figure out a way to get them to succeed. Do you need training? Do you need to be in a different role? Or do you need to
Exactly.
work for a different company, right? Because not everybody is a salesman. Not everybody is good at HR issues. Not everybody is good at operations. I've tried operations before at a magazine I worked at. I was not good at it. I was good at selling. And, I told my boss when he made me the manager of the department, it's like, hey, I will do whatever I need to do. 2 months later, I went to him and I said, I'm having an issue with the operational end of it. Let's promote so and so, or let me give some of those duties to so and I'll take on some of her duties, which are the sales and marketing. And it worked out perfectly.
And that's fascinating because that's like one of the things that I talk to my coaching clients about optimizing essentially the
Mhm.
division of tasks based on what people are really good at, right? And what lights them up. Because sometimes, well, everybody has tasks that they don't necessarily enjoy, right? And
Yeah,
typically
yeah.
that would be the administrative stuff, but not always. But there are ways to optimize the workload to really benefit from the biggest assets that each employee can bring to the table. And at the same time, the added bonus is that they perform much better, right? And the team runs much more smoothly as well.
Exactly. And uh, it's fascinating when you find that person, right, that they're capable, but they're underperforming, and you reassign them a little bit, tweak their job description, give them certain responsibility and take away other responsibility. How all of a sudden, they're showing up to work early, right? They're staying late. They're achieving what they want to achieve and then some, right? And then if they want to go back and take on these other responsibilities, maybe it's some training. Send them to a 2-day training somewhere, or figure out a way to make that happen for them because good people are hard to find. And when you find that good person, you want to keep him or her around as long as you can. And the beauty of that too is when you have that good employee and they decide, it's time for me to go somewhere else, you're happy for them. Yeah, you're disappointed that you need to hire somebody new or train somebody new, but it makes you happy that they're succeeding and moving forward. Whereas if they're an employee that is underperforming, oh, here's my notice. It's like, okay, thank you, right? It doesn't. It's like, okay, good luck, whatever. You're not that invested in their success. um, but I've always, anybody that's ever worked for me that's moved on, I would say 90% of them, I've always been very, very happy for them because I know that, they're going to contribute to another company and hopefully it's someone that I can keep in contact with, and still, maintain some sort of a relationship with.
Absolutely. And as you mentioned, training and coaching is a big is the other piece of that, right? So
Yes, yes,
making sure that the employee is a good fit for the role and making sure that they have the tools to succeed in the role. So training and coaching, of course, comes into play.
exactly.
Like one of the things that I have talked to a lot of people about recently, and we are actually doing a roundtable next week about that. It's about promoting incompetence. And I see that all the time, in especially in big companies, where they take an expert, someone who is technically skilled and great performer, and they promote the person into a leadership position without providing any additional support.
Yeah.
And it's like sink or swim or sink, right? And people struggle with that, and they become an unhappy and ineffective manager or ineffective leader. So the company loses, first of all, a great expert, and second, gains a leader who is wreaking havoc in the team. And it's so
Yes.
short-sighted, uh, given that coaches are available, right? Like there is plenty of us to
Mhm.
service any need. Yet companies feel that it's too expensive or it demands too much time. And they don't realize the immense return on investment that they would get from actually putting some money
Yeah.
into coaching for that particular person. Do you see that in the companies that well, in your own company, I bet not, but in the organizations where you are a board member?
Oh, absolutely. I look at it this way. It's like in retail, or not even retail, cell phones, right? It costs more to acquire a new customer than it does to retain an existing customer. And if you remember, before smartphones came out, everybody would give you a new phone, right? The flip phones or what have you, right? You extend your contract, we'll give you a free phone. They don't do that with the as much with the smartphones now because they're so expensive. But it costs a lot more to find a new customer than it does to retain a current customer. Same is true with an employee, right? You have somebody that's been with your company for 7 years. You all of a sudden you promote them to a vice president of operations, and like you said, you don't give them any tools. You just expect that they're going to be there and do the work, and all of a sudden that person leaves because they're frustrated, they're failing, no one's supporting them. And now you have to hire somebody new, train that person, go through the whole process. Whereas if the company would have invested, 10, 15, $20,000, whatever, upfront for coaching, that would have given them so much value, right? Time saved, money saved in the future. You make that investment now because that $20,000 investment now a year from now, just the cost of money now it's 25,000. I'm just going to say that, right? So, and then on top of that, you're having to retrain somebody, do all sorts of different things. It's going to be way more than $20,000. Way
And
more.
opportunity cost as well, right? Because
Exactly.
a poor leader is going to affect the entire team, the performance of the entire team. So there is
Hmm.
a significant opportunity cost. And of course, whenever someone leaves from a team, yes, hopefully people are happy for the person to move on to greener pastures, but it does affect the team, the morale.
Oh, absolutely.
So high turnover wreaks havoc on morale within the company.
So,
Yeah.
so the magazine that I used to work at back in the early 90s, we used to have a high turnover rate. That after about a year of I was there for 4 years. After about a year of me being there, I would go out of my way to not meet the new people until they had been there for about 3 months. Because I would see people get hired 2 weeks later, they'd quit. Or a month later, they'd get fired. And it's like, why invest the time, my personal time to, get to know these people when they're going to be gone? So, and that was kind of a running joke in my department. I ran the events department, which was very tight. We had longevity. not like the sales and some of the other departments in the magazine. But you're right. It's like the cost of training somebody, the opportunity cost, right? Especially in sales. Just because I'm a great salesman does not make me a great manager, right? I have the leadership skills, which are evident in my production, my sales revenue, I'm exceeding my goals. But without training, without a coach, without, going, getting outside training, if I get put into a managerial spot, now I've got a team of 10 people underneath me. I have my own responsibilities and I'm managing everybody else. My boss just set me up for failure. And again, just because I'm a good baseball player doesn't mean I'm a good coach. And so that needs to be taken into account by CEOs. CEOs really need to look at this. And most CEOs, I forget the statistic, but it's close to 70% of CEOs come up through sales. Very few come up through HR or operations. Most of them come up through sales. So they understand that. And this is, I'm talking more from publicly traded companies. They tend to understand that. And a lot of them are more willing to make those investments, but not all of them, right? A lot of times we forget, and I'm putting myself in with these bigger CEOs, but we forget where we came from in our path to get into the boardroom. We forget about that. And my way is the best way, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden you have a failing sales force, revenues down. Why? Well, I need to invest in that, in the coaching, the training.
Yes, and quite frankly, that's of course what I do, right? But from my experience, the best way to start is by increasing self-awareness.
Mhm.
I work with large companies who are running talent programs, first of all, to
Mhm.
secure succession, right? To identify the budding
Yes.
leaders and develop them to make sure that when the time comes, they are ready for a leadership role. So that's one thing. But it all starts with self-awareness. That's
Yes.
why we typically, my coaching starts with a 360 feedback because people are operating with all these outdated patterns and blind spots
Yes.
and assumptions about who they are, and they don't even realize that these things are holding them back. Uh, like being self-conscious in meetings, for example, or having some trouble having those difficult conversations that are absolutely necessary to develop their team members, but they shy away from that, shy away from conflict, or don't voice their opinions because they are not willing to be vulnerable. Like there are so many blind spots that leaders have,
Yes.
and these things are running the show basically, and they are working extremely long hours to compensate for uh, some time management issues, and they are jumping around. They want to be supportive and responsive and all of that, but they don't allocate enough time for focused work, for example. That's one of my
Yeah.
pet peeves, actually.
Well,
And yes.
yeah. And I was just going to say, and we haven't even talked about mentorship, the value in having mentors. And just from my martial arts experience, the mentor that I had when I tested for one of my black belts, uh, he led me. He didn't tell me this is what you need to do. He just led me on the path, or not even on the path, but to the path, and with ideas and suggestions. One of which, so I'm a big believer in meditation and visualization. Every morning, I'm up at 5 o'clock. I sit for 20 minutes and I do nothing but breathe. Focus. I don't think of anything. I just breathe. And in the evening, I visualize. I visualize my day for tomorrow. This is what's going to happen tomorrow. And uh, I I've visualized a couple of things over the years that give me goosebumps thinking about them because they happened exactly the way I visualized them. One of them was my black belt test. With exception to one thing that happened, everything else went exactly as I visualized it. And another thing was flying back from Italy during there was a big Brexit strike. Pre-Brexit, all the air traffic controllers went on strike, so flights were delayed. We were going to miss our flight, and I visualized the other flight coming in late and the delays, and it happened exactly the way I visualized it on my plane from Florence to Paris. You know, that was the connecting flight that we were going to miss. And Paris, as you know, when they go on strike, they go on strike. Everything was shut down. But I again, it gives me goosebumps that, and you're the first person I've ever sent this to outside of my circle that this is that happened. But again, visualize visualize my day, my what tomorrow's going to be like. And does it work?
Yeah.
Sometimes, but it gives me a frame of mind that this is what I'm working towards.
Well, actually, this is a wonderful practice, and I'm really glad that you are talking about that because one of my questions for you was, what are you doing to grow your mindset and to ensure that you stay in the high vibe, right? So clearly, you are manifesting. You are doing the breath work, which prepares your day. It aligns you with who you truly are, and it sets you up for learning, for better memory, for better performance. Breath work actually has physiological effect
Oh, oh
on
yeah,
your brain, like big time, right? And that's been
yes.
supported by studies as well. And what you're doing with the visualization, sorry, I'm about to lose my earphone. What you're doing with the visualization is, um, of course, law of attraction if you are a believer, but even on a physiological level, it primes your brain uh, to seek out, basically switch on your selective attention and to seek out cues in your environment kind of subconsciously. You don't really need to think about it, but these things jump out at you.
Mhm.
Whatever you hear on the radio or something that you see online or newspaper, and essentially it helps you get into the frequency of the goal achieved, right? And
Yes,
and that makes it actually more likely for that thing to happen. I'm a firm believer in that, and
absolutely.
not necessarily in a woo-woo sense, but we are energy, right? Everything. My
Yes,
table, my desk is made of energy particles. So the frequency that we are functioning in attracts whatever is aligned with that, and that's, in my opinion, how manifestation basically works, right?
exactly. And one of the things, one of the meditations that I do aside here, most of the time I just sit there and count my breaths, right, for 20 minutes, count to 10, start over. Every once in a while, though, I'll do a guided meditation, one that I love to do, and they're meditations that I've recorded myself for myself. And one of them that I love to do is a meditation on death. Not that I'm gonna die, but the samurai, they used to meditate on death daily, right? Because they knew that or today I could go into battle and not come home, right? And they did that to give them that fortitude to face death and not be afraid of it. Whereas mine is more, uh, what if today is my last day on the planet? What am I going to do to leave a mark, to do something good, to leave something for my children, to leave a legacy, to basically know that I'm doing the right thing or a good thing. And so that's more the focus that I take on when I go through this guided meditation. And it's weird meditating and hearing my own voice in my headphones, but I got over that years ago. I do, and that's one of the meditations that I do. Another one is basically martial arts related. The martial art that I do, circles. We do a lot of circular movement. So I work on circles and bringing things in and out of my life using circular work. But the majority of the meditations that I do are just on breath and just the health benefit alone on that, right? Just normal breathing, focusing on nothing, counting my breaths. And, a thought comes in. Oh, did you pay the gas bill? Right? Oh, that report is due. Right? If I focus on that and I lose track, I start all over at one. If not, I just say, hey, thank you for coming in. I'll deal with you later and let it go out. And I'm just the observer, right? And when I teach black belts. I teach a black belt I teach a black belt martial arts class when I'm in town, and I don't look at it as teaching. I don't teach, I share. I share my knowledge. I used to teach a small business or a business plan development class at a nonprofit here in Santa Barbara, Women's Economic Ventures. And I taught that a class that was in Spanish. It was a 13-week class. And I didn't look at it as teaching. I'm not teaching you how to do a business plan, how to do financials, blah, blah, blah. I'm sharing my experience. This is what I've done, how I've done it in the past. This is what I've been told is the right way to do it. I agree with 90% of it, but in my experience, this little 10% tweak helped me. Will it help you? Probably not, but it helped me. And so I look at it, and same with my clients. I'm not necessarily providing a service to them as I'm sharing my knowledge, my experience in dealing with agencies and what have you.
Mm. And that's a beautiful mindset, Alex. And thank you for the tips on the meditation. And I
Absolutely.
absolutely love what you're doing with kind of putting things into perspective. What if I'm not here tomorrow? Have I, how do I need to show up as, or how do I need to show up to really be the best self that I can be and to create a positive ripple effect, right?
Yeah.
And what can I share with people? What can I say to them? How can I express love and appreciation and gratitude to them, so that if something happens to me, I have clear conscience and I can
Yeah.
go wherever I'm supposed to go, right?
And one of the things that I try to do is embrace my imperfections because I know I'm not perfect. And I wish more people would do that. And a lot of times I wish I would do that more wholeheartedly, right? Because it's hard to look in the mirror and say, yeah, you need to get better at this, you need to get better at that. And again, it's difficult. It's difficult to
Yeah.
do that self-assessment, but I think it's important to do it. I think, I like to do it the week between Christmas and New Year's. I got this from my old boss. I haven't done this the last couple of years, but I used to fast from Christmas to New Year's and use that as a time to reflect. And I still fast on occasion, but not for extended periods like that. And I'm really thinking that, it's time for me to do that again. And because, all of a sudden you start feeling hunger and it gives you a whole different perspective. I grew up, I don't want to say I grew up poor because we weren't poor. My mom always made sure that we had everything that we needed. But I did grow up in a very disadvantaged community, and I'm lucky to be where I am. And that does not go unnoticed. And I'm very grateful that my mom pushed me to go to school. She was the ultimate role model. And then I got even luckier when I married my wife because she is my mom on steroids when it comes to that kind of stuff. Um, and I've said this before, and I've had a couple people make comments about this, but I really wish more women were in leadership positions because the world, I think, would be in a way better place if we had more female leaders. Because you know, I I respect strong women. I respect all women, period. But having been raised by a strong woman, being married to a strong woman, and then having a daughter that's a strong woman, it's just given me a whole different attitude. And I come from a very macho culture, right? It's like I remember hearing men say, "Well, I've got my wife, blah blah, and my family, and then I've got my woman and my family." It's like, really? I mean, come on. And I get it's a cultural thing. I get that, but to me that's not something to be boasting about, in my opinion. With that
Yeah,
said, yeah, I mean that's a whole other topic, and it can be a little
absolutely.
disconcerting, I guess.
Yes, well, we have made some strides and some progress on that account, and it's like we need both sides, right? Like we
Yeah,
all have masculine and feminine energy, and it needs to
yeah.
be balanced because otherwise it's off keel essentially, and the
Harmony.
respect needs to be there
Yeah.
for both, right?
Hmm.
So yes, you're right. That's a different conversation, and I would be happy to have you again on the podcast because it's fascinating stuff. I wanted to get back to something that you said, which is related to embracing failure, right? Like embracing imperfections, embracing that we make mistakes, and I wholeheartedly agree with your approach to failure. It's it's a way to learn, right? And there are some people who advocate even celebrating failure because that means essentially that you stepped out of your comfort zone and you actually tried something new, something that required courage and risk taking. So yes, and some companies are actually promoting that, fail often and fail fast. Um, but that might be part of their manifesto, but it's not actually what trickles down the hierarchy, and people still don't feel free to make mistakes and to take risks because they are afraid of punishment and the repercussions, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and but one thing that you said, maybe a little tip for you and for our listeners. You said you look in the mirror and you say you need to improve this. I would replace the word need with want to.
Yes. No,
That makes a huge
absolutely.
difference.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just that, because it's okay that I don't have this particular skill,
Hmm.
but I want to get better. I wish that's my desire, right? And set
Yes.
set your eyesight on the goal. Well, wonderful conversation, Alex. Thank you very much for joining me. I have had
Oh,
a
thank
blast.
you for having me. Thank you for having me. I really
Uh,
appreciate it.
I have two last questions for you.
Yes.
Um, what would you say if you think back to when you were 18 and you met Alex, the 18-year-old Alex? If you could give him like three sentences, a piece of wisdom, what would you tell him?
Follow your dream. Follow your dream. Everything else will fall into place. If it's a noble pursuit, everything will fall into place. And I told both of my kids this. You study what you want to study. My daughter, brilliant. She could have been a lawyer, she could have been an architect, a doctor if she wanted to. She's an artist. She, as a child, she would see the days as colors. Saturday was red, Sunday was, yellow and what have you. And early on, and I got this from Deepak Chopra, in a book on tape of his that I listened to. He said that he told his children, "You study what you want to study. We will pay for it. We will take care of the expense." We told our daughter that. You do what you want to do. She is a tenure track professor at Compton College in the art department. She teaches art. Uh, Went to UC Berkeley for her bachelor's degree, and then went to the University of Michigan for her master's degree in fine art. Do study what you want to study, do what you want to do. Same with my son, he's a chef. Although he went to school for that, he didn't like working in a kitchen. So he actually works for my wife's company. But again, study what you want to study. Follow your dream. What's your dream? Um, that would have saved me a lot of anguish had I followed my dream. And that's what I would tell my 18-year-old self. Dream big, follow it. If it's noble, you dedicate yourself to it, you put the time into it, it will happen.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Alex. So, my last question, if someone wants to work with you in the capacity of CEO or with your company, Conduit, how can they get in touch with you?
They can send me an email. It's alex at conduitgr.com. They can call me. My phone number or text me 805-331-7764. I'm happy to meet with anybody, talk to them about their issues. If and my first thing is it's okay to say no. I'm not here to sell you. I'm not hard selling you. Your house can be on fire and I could have a bucket of water and it's okay for you to say, I don't want the water. Right here, I'm trying to give it's okay. Say no. Right? I'm fine with that. Um, but I appreciate the opportunity to plug our company there. It's they can reach out to me and I'm happy to talk to them. Do a Zoom call, a telephone call, and I welcome the opportunity to help anybody that needs it.
Excellent. So, how about we put your LinkedIn profile in the description on YouTube or on LinkedIn, wherever this is shown, and people can get in touch with you
That
through your LinkedIn profile,
that's
right?
perfect. That's perfect. I never deny a connection request. So please send me a request to connect or a direct message. Like I said, I'm happy to talk to anybody about anything.
Wonderful. Such a pleasure speaking with you, Alex. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Likewise, and thank you so much for having me on as a guest. I really appreciate it.